please, another applause. Thank you. Senator Orengo, you can wind up.
Yeah, I thank you, and I also join
seats.
you in welcoming the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. I'll just concluding by saying that I wish we are able to put in more resources
You may hold on.
to the county.
Hold on, we get the press out. Thank you, media. I'm giving you 1 minute more. Thank you, thank you. You can now take your positions. Media, you may now move to your position, please, so that we can continue with the conference. Thank you very much for welcoming our guests. Media, please move to your positions. Move to your positions. Thank you very much. Senator Orengo, you may conclude.
Professor, I think I'd actually concluded with an appeal, which for purpose of clarity, I'll just repeat that there is need to ensure that we take more resources to the counties so that some of these problems, which we are not going to resolve this year or next year, there are problems that keep on recurring. If you go over history, we have had various pandemics. The issue of climate change and global warming is not something that we can deal with in one event or in a conference like this. And in order to ensure that these themes continue nationally and at a local level, we need to give more and more resources to the counties. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Right Honorable Prime Minister, we have the last two speakers in this session, and the next one is remarks by the Majority Leader of the Senate, Senator Samuel Pogisho.
Thank you very much, Session Chair. Your Excellency, Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the Chief Guest this morning, Chair of the Council of Governors and all governors present, Speaker of the Senate and all senators present, all members of the Diplomatic Corps, sponsors, and if I may acknowledge all protocol already observed. Good morning. I am usually I've been a teacher, and I just want to know the audience, how they respond. Good morning. Very good. Thank you very much. Let me use this opportunity to thank the organizers of this great conference, this devolution conference, the 7th one, dealing with a multi-level governance for climate action under the sub-theme of subnational mobilization in unlocking the full potential of climate change, climate action in post-COVID era, and giving me this honor to make a few remarks. I know that at some point we will introduce everybody, but at this point in the opening remarks, let me just say that the Senate is aware of the role that it must play in the action needed for climate change. And part of this is what we are already given under the Constitution, which is representation, legislation, and oversight. Let me just say, in a way of summarizing, It's common knowledge that united we stand and divided we fall. It's common knowledge. But it's very important to know that in dealing with climate change and climate action, united we should stand. And that means bringing all of us together, the executive, the legislature, and all the active participants in this sector. Going forward, in my view, we need to empower our people, the people who put us in those positions where we are, empower the people to hold their leaders to account. If our people are empowered, they will hold us to account and we will do what we needed to do. The other thing that I must emphasize is that already in devolution we have the economic blocks which are regional. If we can make those to work, then we are on the way to achieving some level of action in dealing with climate change. The other thing that we must agree on is that there should be terms of engagement. Those terms of engagement between the executive and the legislature on how they should engage in these matters will then take us to greater heights in terms of action. I must say from the very beginning that in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, Kenya has suffered devastating drought, unforgiving floods, locust invasion, but just to mention a few. Today, the rise of water in our lakes can tell a story about climate change. Cities around the world are under floods, and some are actually sinking. Pollution is threatening our water ecosystem. These are realities. And so when we come to dealing with these matters, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we have to realize that it affects not only our social, economic lives, but the economy itself of the nation, the GDP of the nation. And so we already have seen the effects on our GDP, especially in the agricultural, tourism, and the economic sector. This conference provides an opportunity to consider green climate financing. A recipient of funds from the public, private, and alternative sources, county governments who receive these funds should prioritize policies and programs on climate change, climate financing, investing in climate resilience, promotes climate resilient products in the marketplace. Time has come for counties to consider its capacity to commit and implement mitigation and adaptation efforts, mainstream climate risks, and opportunities to invest into investment decision-making and promoting standards and practices that foster sustainable development. Climate financing, as we know it, cannot be divorced from innovation and technological development. The Senate is considering the Startup Bill 2021, which seeks to protect innovation of young Kenyans. County governments should endeavor to formulate policies touching public finance, offer incentives, and address long-term challenges through technology, and see the implementation of the SDG 13 on reducing greenhouse gas emissions responsible for global warming, and to strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-induced impacts. The Go Blue initiative launched by Kenya's government exemplifies coordinated actions, collaborative efforts, and shared responsibility among the 6 coastal county governments and between the national government and the regional government and non-government organizations. This is the way to go. As far as climate financing is concerned, the Senate has already passed key bills touching on resource allocation. Of course, our Division of Revenue, Act 2021, the County Allocation of Revenue, Act 2021, Private Partnership Bill 2021, the County Investment Bill 2021, among other 70 published bills. Having passed about 20 bills in the interest of county governments, it remains now for the county governments to implement those bills. Ladies and gentlemen, it's in the interest of our time that I must say this, it's our hope, or my hope, that the deliberation today will realize a mainstreaming of climate financing into sectoral policies and plans of both national and county governments. I take this opportunity to thank the county government of Makueni, the governor and his team, the senator, friend Mutula Jr., and the rest who have worked together not only for this conference, but also to showcase the action on climate change. We have begun this morning by planting trees, which is a good show that we are determined to follow through with what we say here in this particular place. I take this opportunity, therefore, to thank all, the Council of Governors and the Senate and all the others who are here to encourage ourselves about our role. And I want to say this in terms of departure from here, that we must all of us, thank the good Lord for the nation that he has given us, the country has given us. We are the ones responsible. We have been given the responsibility to act. We are the ones who will destroy it. We must put it back together. And if we must work together. I like the idea from the County Assemblies Forum that we must strengthen the houses of legislation in this country. We must make them work. And I think we must also accept the oversight roles that they provide for us to be proactive in what we do. I want to thank you, and may you have fruitful deliberations. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Senator Bokisho. The last speaker for the session is the CS from the National Treasury and Planning, who is here represented by Albert Mwenda. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker of the Senate. Allow me to make a disclosure before I read the remarks. Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, my name is Albert Mwenda. I am the Director General of Budget, Fiscal and Economic Affairs at the National Treasury. I am not used to speaking in such high-profile meetings, and at least also not these numbers. But fortunately, my role is very simple. I have been sent by the Cabinet Secretary to the National Treasury and Planning, Honorable Ambassador Uhuru Yatani, first to send his apologies. He traveled and therefore could not be with us here today, but he asked me to deliver his remarks. And with your permission, I will then proceed to deliver the speech of the Cabinet Secretary. The Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kenneth Lusaka, the Chair Council of Governors, the Cabinet Secretaries present here, the Honorable Senators, members of Parliament, Principal Secretaries, and Honorable members of the County Assemblies, representatives of the development partners, private sector, the academia, civil society, and the media, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to take this early opportunity to appreciate and thank the county governments for organizing this important event at this time when the national and county level agencies are preparing to roll out this important program, the Financing Locally Led Climate Action, popularly known as FLOCA. In a bid to address climate change, not just as a cross-cutting issue, but also as key to livelihood support system in the entire country at the community level. Today's event marks an important step towards creating awareness and bringing together different stakeholders to share their views with the policy makers in order to enable us as Kenyans to start having a candid conversation on how to finance climate change mitigation and adaptation measures in all the 47 counties in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's economy is heavily dependent on natural resources, with about 40% of the gross domestic product and 70% of overall employment being derived from natural resource-related sectors such as agriculture, mining, forestry, fishing, tourism, water supply, and energy. This therefore implies that a changing climate, environmental degradation, and loss of biodiversity would therefore have significant negative impact on the country's economic growth targets. It is no wonder that Kenya has been identified as one of the countries most vulnerable to impacts of climate change. The country is classified among the countries and regions most at risk to effects of climate change, with severe consequences expected over the short to medium term across sectors such as agriculture, industry, energy, water, trade, and tourism, according to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Kenya's second National Climate Change Action Plan indicates, for instance, that the fiscal liability of floods, which are increasingly linked to climate change, is equivalent to 5.5% of GDP every 7 years, while that of droughts, also linked to climate change, is equivalent to 8% of GDP every 5 years. For governments and businesses today, therefore, there is nothing more urgent than taking climate adaptation actions to avoid irreversible damage and meet the Paris Agreement goals, including reaching net zero carbon by 2050. Global emissions must be cut in half by 2030. In order to achieve this, it is estimated that global investment required to bring the world to a net zero by 2050 is USD 150 trillion. Ladies and gentlemen, it is worth to note that 66% reduction in emission is possible using just the mature technologies that exist. For example, in the renewable energy sector, such as solar, wind, and geothermal, as well as embracing climate-smart agriculture, biodiversity, catchment areas conservation, green building, and so on. Countries and companies that firmly embrace these opportunities, among other sustainability and climate innovation initiatives, will play a vital role in saving the planet, as well as building local communities' adaptive and resilience capacities. Equally crucial, they will create business advantages in such forms as increased market share, enhanced cost efficiency, boosted valuations, and the ability to attract and retain top talent. In order to fast-track the just and green transition, there is need to strengthen national, county, and local level adaptation capacities, which is the key objective of the Financing Locally Led Climate Action Program that is underway. This calls for broad stakeholder engagement in the definition of clear rules and goals for adaptation targets and eligible project pipelines to be financed by the climate and or green funds. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Treasury recognizes the importance of financial institutions having better understanding of the climate change risks they face. A better understanding of risks will not only enable financial institutions to better manage those risks, but will also help in identifying new investment opportunities for economic growth and employment. To this end, several efforts have been made to mainstream climate change into the financial sector. Allow me to highlight just a few. First, the National Treasury has developed the National Climate Finance Policy of 2018. Second, we have developed corporate and sovereign green bond policy frameworks, thus unlocking opportunities to tap into finance for green investments. Third, we have developed climate finance training curriculum for both the national and county officials. In addition, the National Treasury has partnered with other institutions to develop climate finance training program, which is currently being implemented. Fourth, the National Treasury is championing the strengthening of regional, continental, and international partnerships for accelerating access to green finance by fostering South to South and South to North cooperation through the establishment of the Africa Green Finance Coalition. Fifth, we have enhanced access to climate finance in Kenya. Sixth, we have secured a second opinion by CSIRO on the bankability of green projects pipeline, and robustness of the Kenya Sovereign Green Bond Framework has been given a high rating of medium green. Seventh, we have established a task force to develop green fiscal incentive policy framework to catalyze private sector investments in the low carbon climate resilient projects. Eighth, we have developed draft regulations for the establishment of National Climate Change Fund. Ninth, Kenya updated nationally determined contributions whose main objective is to lower greenhouse gases emissions by 33% by 2030, despite the fact that Kenya contributes a mere 0.1% to the total global emissions. 10th, the National Treasury has built capacity within the national and county entities and continues to do so to enable them develop bankable projects pipeline as per requirement of global funding institutions. 11th, Kenya is currently ranked as the second country in Africa with the highest number of projects approved by the Green Climate Fund. That is about 14, all valued at USD 212 million. 12th, the National Treasury, in collaboration with the Council of Governors, has designed the Financing Locally Led Climate Action Program, FLOCA, a pioneer program globally supported by the World Bank, the government of Sweden and Denmark to mobilize approximately $1 billion in 5 years. These funds will finance adaptation and resilience building measures in all the 47 counties at community level. As of today, under FLOCA program, over 32 counties have enacted Climate Change Act, established Climate Change Fund, dedicated a county executive committee member in charge of climate change, and established climate finance and change units, dedicated average of approximately 2% of the development budgets, with a view to enhancing their capacity for faster implementation of programs. Last but not least, it is worth noting that NEMA, Acumen, and the Kenya commercial banks have been accredited by the GCF, the Green Climate Fund, thus opening an avenue for private sector to access funds to finance green projects. The reforms highlighted above will be important in enabling Kenya to finance the recently updated nationally determined contributions, the green projects pipelines that are being identified, as well as our national adaptation plan. These efforts will also support the government of Kenya's effort to build back better as a green and resilient economy from the pandemic and accelerate our transition to a low-carbon economy driven by significant green finance from private and public sources. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I call upon all of us to continue working together to effectively roll out, adequately support the implementation of the national and county climate-related policies and programs as a means to mitigate on climate change. Thank you and God bless you, Honorable Ambassador Uhuru Yatani, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury and Planning. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mwenda. That brings us to the end of the speakers for this morning. Right Honorable Chief Guest for this morning. This session has been extremely informative, very evaluative also. We have been able to look back to where we came from before the devolution, the benefits that we have enjoyed in devolution. The same speakers have been able to also point out challenges that have distracted us in getting to the full enjoyment of devolution. And better still, the same presentations have given us way forwards, pointing to the future and the third generation governors, as well as the third generation senators. With those remarks, I would like to sincerely thank the panelists who have been extremely good to us. Can you join me in thanking them? Even as I release them to go to their seats. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, panelists. You have given us very good information. I have reason to believe that when the proceedings of this conference are released, a lot of information will be tapped from the presentations that have been made. Honorable delegates, I would now like to give the program back to Wilfred Rijuma, because we are out to reorganize the program a little bit as we have the opening ceremony coming up shortly. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Our chief guest this morning, Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, Cabinet Secretaries led by Dr. Friet Matiang'i, Right Honorable Senator Kenneth Lusaka, Speaker of the Senate, Excellency Governors present, Honorable Senators, Deputy Governors, Honorable Members of Parliament present, leaders from Makueni, Principal Secretaries, heads of missions, members of the County Assembly, and the citizens who are represented here. It's my pleasure to usher us into the opening ceremony. And as indicated, we have a change on the program. Our chief guest this morning for the opening is Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. Please put your hands to welcome His Excellency Governor Professor Kibudha Kibwana,
who will be the moderator for the opening session. Mwalimu, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, and hamjambo tena. Karibuni Makueni, karibu baba, karibu mawaziri, karibu all the leadership and all representatives from our country, development partners, everybody. Please allow me, because we are short of time, to ask Right Honorable Raila Odinga to come forward. CS Matiang to come forward, please. CS Devolution Keter to come forward. Our Chair, Governor Wambora, CS Tobiko, Vice Chair Ongwae, Speaker of Senate, and our keynote speaker, Dr. Kevin Kariuki. Please come forward. And Senator Mutula Kilonzo, Senator Makueni County. We will begin by asking Senator Mutula Kilonzo, the host senator, to come to the podium and to address us. And for the initial speakers, please, 5 minutes. If you can do less, we shall appreciate. Honorable Senator Mutula Kilonzo, karibu.
God is good. You don't seem convinced. God is good, and all the time, and that is his nature. Wow. Thank you. The Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, Cabinet Secretaries led by Matiang'i, my friend Tobiko, Cabinet Secretary Keter, Governors present led by Governor 001, Hassan Ali Joho, Governor 047, Governor Kananu, my own governor, and our First Lady, Nazi. Where are you? Yes. My friend Isaac Kalua, I hope you will be recognized at some point. Where is Isaac Kalua? Green Africa Foundation. Chief Conservator, John Kamau, I must recognize you for the work that you have done. Karibu Makueni. First things first. We hope that you are enjoying yourself in Makueni. I can see a lot of you are feeling the heat. Those are the effects of climate change. So get used to it. It's not going to change. We were hoping that we would have some rains. Now, on the theme of what we are discussing, allow me to make just 1 or 2 remarks. In the summit in Glasgow 2 weeks ago, somebody said, we are digging our graves. The people who said we are digging our graves come from beautiful cities in the world: Stockholm, Geneva, London, Beijing, Washington, UAE, Sao Paulo, etc., etc. In our own region here, and I want to say this without any fear, that we have allowed polluters to pollute the source of water for Makueni, Machakos, Kitui, and otherwise downstream. The Athi River is the most polluted water source in Kenya. When it is in Athi River, it's black. When it's in Machakos, it's light green. By the time it comes to Makueni, it's yet another color. Why are we allowing polluters to pollute the water source that is killing our residents. While they say in those cities, we are digging our graves, in Kenya, we are already in our graves. And I hope we are going to have a serious resolution about dealing with people who are affecting our environment, beginning with Athi River. Number two, allow me to congratulate CS Tobacco and John Kamau, the Chief Conservator. A few months ago, we realized that there were people logging our forests up in one of our constituencies where we have 2,600 hectares of forest cover. I called CS Tobacco together with the Chief Conservator. The person in charge in Makueni was interdicted, and for the first time, we now have a community forest association courtesy of the CS Tobacco and the Chief Conservator. Wapigieni makofi. We want to transform those forests now, with the help of Kenya Forest Service, into livelihoods, changing livelihoods. If we can have beehives there, I've spoken to Waziri. If we can do that, we'll be happy. Somebody mentioned that in Bahamas, they said that Bahamas will be underwater in 2095. Now, when I was a young man, I represented a gentleman from Baringo, and I used to visit Lake Baringo, where there was a gentleman with 5 wives and 5 islands. Those 5 islands are now underwater. Lake Nakuru, part of it, is now underwater. So climate change is real. And what we are missing is not legislation, because we have the Climate Change Act. Makueni has its own climate change policy. What we are missing, ladies and gentlemen, in Makueni today is political goodwill. And I'm glad everybody is seated and listening. And the bigwigs are behind me. Because what we are missing, ladies and gentlemen, is political goodwill. Let the polluters of our environment pay. Because I have said this in the Senate before, that the fine that is under the MCA Act is so easy to pay. You pollute and put effluents into Athi River, the fine under Section 143, they will easily pay. Why are we allowing people to pollute our environment? I will end there, but I will not forget to tell you, on your way home, after 3 days, if you are using Makueni Water to Katumani Road, stop at Etangine and buy some fruits. Buy some fruits, and if all women greet you and say wacha, don't say siwachi. The correct response is so. You say if you are using this route from Makindu to Hunters all the way up, Emali, Sultan, stop and buy a fruit. You bless this county. We are the top producers of mangoes in Kenya today. It's unfortunate you have come before the season. We are also a producer of the Pixie oranges that, of course, have dried because of the adverse conditions. So, Governor, I hope that you can get a resolution, and because of the adverse weather, I can see that we are going to have drought, and that drought needs to be mitigated. Welcome to Makueni once again. My dear colleagues in the Senate, the Speaker will introduce you. I've only seen one member of Parliament. His name is Patrick Moyo Musimba. He's the only one I have seen. Karibu, Patrick Moyo Musimba. Asanteni, Mungu awabariki.
Thank you very much, host Senator. And now I will proceed to invite myself to make my remarks. I think I had dispensed with the protocols, Baba and our CS Matiang and the CS Environment and CS Devolution and all leaders. On behalf of the people of Makueni, we really invite the rest of Kenya to this 7th annual devolution conference, which will mark the end of the annual happening of this event. So karibuni sana. Please enjoy yourselves in the conferences, in the breakouts, and in Makueni at large. We have purpose to be very generous so that you have a good time. When we went to Kirinyaga last time, they had a bit of challenge with English. They have a motto, Kirinyaga is rising, but some of them were saying Kirinyaga is lysing. We have also a challenge with Glasgow, and some of our people are saying Glasgow. And so this is our Glasgow. And so coming to the, in the hills of COP26, this is really a very important event, and particularly when it is addressing subnational matters of climate change. So it is like we were prophetic, chair of council, when we thought that this should be the theme of this meeting. Honorable the Prime Minister, devolution has really come of age. These 9 years going into 10 years, many things have happened, and when you visited the exhibitions, you were able to see some of the innovations, some of the things that are happening in each of our 47 counties. And we are happy to note that in this meeting, as we consider where devolution has gone, as we consider climate change, we are happy, very happy to note that devolution really has settled and it is irreversible. And one of the things that indicate this to me is even in the sphere of climate change, counties have actually done more than was expected. Because although it may be a relatively new phenomenon on the continent in terms of dealing with climate change, about now 33 counties have already passed climate change legal framework after policy, and even dedicated funds for climate change adaptation. And that in itself says volumes about how these counties are considering the challenge of climate change. And as some, the speaker from the National Treasury on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary said, the question now is really working together to make sure that there is funding at these levels. And indeed, even when the interfaith group, I think led by Archbishop of Nyeri, Moheria, those faith people focused on, again, the question of funding. And we hope in this meeting we are going to have a very robust resolution saying how this will happen in a very concrete way, so that we don't talk, go away, and nothing much happens thereafter. And even the 14 counties that have not passed this legal and policy framework are at the tail beat of it. And we congratulate the county assemblies for a job well done in this area. Again, the county governments have established climate change. Apart from the fund, they have established also climate change planning committees. For example, in Makueni, which was one of the first counties to come up with legal framework and dedicated funding, in each of our 30 wards, we have climate change planning committees, and actually some of the representatives are here, some are showing at the exhibition, to say that climate change must be, the implementation must be at the local level, it must be at the grassroots, because if that doesn't happen, then we won't really achieve what we want to achieve. I am very happy, as I conclude, I'm very happy to note that even before Glasgow, the youth of Kenya, through the local conference of youth, themselves were very eloquent on what the youth and what the country should do to combat the climate crisis. And we really applaud the efforts of the youth, and we hope that the youth, the women, persons with disability, disadvantaged communities will be very central in terms of making sure that this agenda is carried forward. I had a conversation with the Engineers Board of Kenya, and they said because of these floods and because of those vagaries, it is important for audits of some of the structures we have built before in the local authority era, and even now, for an audit, not a punitive audit, but a friendly audit to be done so that we can be warned if some of the buildings could be endangered, and we can also use their capacity when we are building major structures, because that is happening. So that we are helped. I believe that after this conference, because now it will be biannual, if it was possible, the alternative here when we don't have this conference, to have a subnational conference on climate change, so that we keep on comparing notes. That would be a very, very positive thing. Just to emphasize, work at the local level, funding for real, and at the local level, and that's why we are very happy with the FLOCA. And I'm standing here also on behalf of the 3 counties of southeastern SECEP, because with Charity Ngilu, Madam Charity Ngilu, Dr. Mutua, we said we were going to work together, and we have done that for this conference. It's not just a Makueni affair. The Makueni First Lady is also here. I forgot to acknowledge her. I don't want a domestic war. And we really would like also the County Assemblies Forum Chair to also come here, because the county assemblies have been very generous in terms of legislation and other matters. So that is really where I want to end, so that I not take advantage of moderating. And I think the host governor, as they end, would deserve some claps. And now it's my pleasure to call our vice chair, Governor Ongwae, who has been the chair of this conference, of the steering committee, to come and also address us. Karibu, chair of the steering committee.
Thank you very much, the governor of this great county of Makueni. God is good, and all the time. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The chair of the County Assemblies Forum, if you are there, please come and sit here. If you are not, I would ask the Secretary General Chepkwony to come and sit here. Please, yeah, come and sit here, Waome. You deserve to sit here in front. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, our Right Honorable Prime Minister, Cabinet Secretary is led by Fred Matiang'i, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, our Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Kenneth Lusaka, the governors here, senators, deputy governors, members of parliament, heads of missions, and representatives of all our bilateral and multilateral partners who are here, members of county assemblies, national government representatives, ladies and gentlemen, I stand here as the co-chair of the Devolution Conference and vice chair of the Council of Governors. And before I say anything else, I would want to indicate that we are in this room. We have members from the county governments, both the executive and the county assemblies. We have members from Senate. We have members from the executive. My role will be very simple, to introduce members of the county governments. And I would now kindly want to ask members of the county assemblies who are in this room if you can very kindly stand so that you salute. All members of the county assemblies who are here, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and be blessed. I would also want to indicate that we have two first ladies here. Our good governor for Makueni only remembered his wife, but there is the first lady for Kisumu. I hope that she is in the room. Please stand introduced. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, and karibu. We also have in this room a number of deputy governors. Deputy governors who are here, please stand and salute. I can see my deputy governor from Kisii and all the other deputy governors. Asante sana, you do a great job down there. Then we have now the governors, the CEOs of all the counties. There are over 25 governors here. I kindly would want you to come forward so that your photo is taken, because these photos become monumental for the Council of Governors. Can you please come here in front very quickly? Because I know that the Speaker is going to introduce the senators. I know that Dr. Matiang'i is going to introduce the CSs and other senior officers. I have this opportunity to introduce you. If you can stand facing the other side, please, and I'll be able to mention your names. And I want to mention, so that it's on record, that the President is in attendance in this meeting and is being represented by the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, but the President is in attendance. Thank you very much. The governors that we have here, we have my chair, the governor for Embu, Martin Wambora. We have Dr. Wycliffe Ambesa Oparanya, Governor Kakamega. We have the governor for Governor number 1, Governor Joe Hassan from Mombasa. We have Governor Kaemba Patrick from Trans Nzoia. We have Governor Kivuta Kibwana from Makueni. We have our great lady Charity Ngelu from Kitui. We have Governor Wangamati Wycliffe from Mungoma. We have Governor Tolgos Alex from Elgeyo Marakwet. We have Governor Mbua Alfred Doctor from Machakos. We have Governor Ojong Sospita from Busia. We have Governor James Nyoro from Kiambu. We have Governor Kaiga Mtai from Nyeri. We have Governor Nderitu Murithi from Laikipia. We have Governor Otichilo Wilbur from Vihiga. We have Governor, the youngest kid on the block, Kanan Wan from Nairobi. Please clap for her. We have Governor Ali Roba from Mandera. We have Governor Anyang' Nyong'o from the great city of Kisumu. They call it London. We have Governor Kimemia Francis from Nyandarua. We have Governor Tunai Samuel from Narok. We have Governor Cornel Rasanga from Siaya. We have Governor Kiraitu Murungi from Meru. I think those are the governor. We have Governor Mukta from Wajir. I think those are the governors here present. If there is a governor that I have not said the name. We have Governor Kiptis from Baringo. Thank you very much, Mwalimu. Thank you very much. Asante sana, governors. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the steering committee, for which I was co-chairing with the CS Devolution, initially with CS Wamalwa, but right now with CS Charles Keter, who is going to talk to us very shortly. it's my greatest pleasure and honor to welcome you to this remarkable conference, whose overall theme is known to you, and I do not, even the sub-theme, I do not need to repeat that. The preparations for this year's conference were driven by this steering committee that is made up of the Council of Governors itself, which I was chairing, the Ministry of Devolution, which was the co-chair, Charles Keter, the Senate, the Governor from Makueni. The Senate was led by Senator Moses Kajwang, who was the chair of the Devolution Committee, and Rose Nyamunga, a member of that committee. We had the CS Keriako Tobiko, Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Forestry. We had Honorable Kipkrui Chepkwony, the Secretary General of the County Assemblies Forum. We had Dr. Rashid Aman, Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of Health, who guided us on health matters and ensured that you don't come here unless you are vaccinated. And we had Maurice Kaburu, the Executive Officer of the President. The team was supported by Senator Mtula Kilonzo, who was just talked to us, the late Senator Victor Prengay, Mr. Julius Korir, Principal Secretary, Ministry of Devolution, and the County Assemblies Forum Secretariat. And of course, I can't forget the acting CEO of the Council of Governors, Mary Mwiti, and our Secretariat. Let me convey our gratitude to them, since nobody else is going to do so. And let me also pass a gratitude to the planning team. It has taken us 2 years. We were supposed to have this conference in March last year, and then in August this year, but we now have the conference. In fact, if you ask me, it's God's blessing that is coming after Glasgow. Distinguished guests, it has been 9 years since we began the devolution journey in our country. Just like other systems, devolution has had its fair share of challenges. However, I cannot overemphasize the gains thereof as we approach the final leg of the second circle of devolution. I would like to salute my brothers and sisters in the devolution family who have been very instrumental in advancing the cause of devolution. As we close the chapter on the annual devolution, conferences, we shall be starting by annual conferences. We celebrate how important this event has become in the devolution calendar, and the conferences have also served as a scorecard for custodians and stakeholders of devolution, especially county governments who have been constitutionally empowered to ensure that service delivery in the counties is undertaken equitably, fairly, cost-effectively, and profitably. I would like to call, therefore, upon each and every one of us to participate in the deliberations, especially in the breakaway sessions, where various topics touching on climate change will be examined in earnest. The following, ladies and gentlemen, is the status of the implementation of the resolutions of the joint communique of the 6th Annual Devolution Conference in 2019 that was held in Kirinyaga. There were 18 areas, but I'm going to go through the main areas very, very quickly. The first one, the own source revenue policy was developed and disseminated by the National Treasury in consultation with the county governments. The policy is now at the implementation stage at the county level. Number two, in collaboration with the county governments, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics developed the Kenya Strategy for Development of Statistics with the aim of harmonizing statistics production in the entire national statistical system. The system is being implemented. The third one is continuous learning in prudent financial management procedures, which is also being implemented. The fourth one is on performance contracting, which is also being implemented in the counties. The fifth one is the National Commission for Science and Technology, in the broader context of operationalizing research steering committees. This is also being implemented. The issue of affordable housing agenda, you all do know that it's being implemented at the moment. And the issue of civic education, that is also underway in all the counties. Excellency, Your Excellency, the Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me sincerely thank my brother Governor Kibutha Kibwana and the County of Makueni for hosting this year's devolution conference. Your hospitality and commitment to the preparations has been exemplary. Let's all have fruitful discussions and let's enjoy our stay in this great county of Makueni. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and be blessed.
Please, as we continue, I think we will try to be brief so that we can finish in good time this opening ceremony. Now I take this opportunity to welcome a little one who has a poem. Amina, please come and give us the poem. And where will Amina do that from, and where is the mic? Oh, she's mic'd. Thank you. Karibu, karibu, karibu sana.
Hi, my name is Haula Amina and I have a poem. Oh, wow! Oh, nature! Oh, beautiful nature! How I love you! You make me feel happy. The hills, valleys, rainbows, mountains, oceans, waterfalls, and most important, beautiful forest. Wait a minute. My mommy told me a long time ago, before I was born, Professor, I don't remember her name, but I remember what she said. Nature is very unforgiving. If you destroy nature, nature will destroy you. Please remind me her name. Yes, the late Professor Wangari Maathai. Oh, how I wish, like the little hummingbird, I'll do the best that I can. In my little voice, I will use big words like SDG 13, climate change, climate action, and global warming to tell the world to grow trees. I know they will listen to me. We will have big forests. Did I just say forest? I meant the home of trees, fruits, wild animals, birds, and beautiful flowers. Did you know that trees give us rain, firewood, food, and timber? Fresh air. I breathe fresh air of the trees that were planted and watered. Our teacher told us to plant 10% of trees. Why not plant 100%? I don't understand. I'm sad, so sad. I see trees crying when we cut them. They scream, they feel pain. Please listen to them. Just because they can't talk, is that why you cut them? Please, please stop. Come one, come all. Help me save the trees. Raise your hand if you want to save the tree. 1, 2, 3. Everybody wants to save the trees. CS Kereko Tobiko will show us the way, because we all want to be healthy. I remember my friend Mutahi Kagwe. If you treat this disease normally, it will treat you abnormally. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Keep your distance, keep your distance, keep your distance. Wear your mask, wear your mask, wear your mask. Oops, sorry, back to my story. We should all grow trees. But remember, if trees die, we all die. This is Advocate Haula Amina, the voice of the little ones. Before I go, allow me to thank the Governor of Embu County, His Excellency Governor Martin Wambora, and CS Keraiko Tobiko for identifying and nurturing my talents. Bye. Mwah. Thank you.
Asante sana Amina, makofi tena. Asante, asante, asante. Powerful message. And now I want to call the Vice President for Energy, Power, Climate Change and Green Growth, Africa Development Bank, so that he can give us, Dr. Kevin Kariuki, he can give us his speech. Is Dr. Kevin in the house? Okay. We will still hear his speech. Now, let me call Cabinet Secretary, Minister for Environment and Forestry, Honorable Keriako Tobiko, and he will compete with Amina. Amina identified him as a mentor, so let's see the competition. And please, let's be brief as possible.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency, the Governor. The Right Honorable the Prime Minister, my colleague ministers, and led by CS Fred Matiang'i, Excellencies the Governors, Excellencies the Ambassadors and High Commissioners, and other members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of Parliament, Senate, and National Assembly, Governors again, and my colleagues. I have PSS. Where is my PS? PS Kipto. I have taken a lot of credit, but without him, I would not have succeeded. So I think it is important to recognize his efforts. Your Excellency, please clap for him. Your Excellency, I shall be absolutely short, and because a lot has been said. Climate change is real. You don't need to be a scientist, although science, in this case, actually is unanimous. All what you need to do is to have your eyes. What is happening here with us? As we speak now, 2 million plus of Kenyans are suffering the devastation of drought. The same with Madagascar, Somalia, and other parts of Africa. In other parts of the world, we have hurricanes, cyclones. We even have a new phenomenon in Canada called the atmospheric rivers. Now we have rivers on the sky, so in the skies. So climate change is real. And secondly, Your Excellency, this conference, and I must register my appreciation. I have worked with the organizers, worked with the governors as one of the members of the steering committee, and I have enjoyed tremendously working with them. And this shows the partnership between the national government and the county government. Previously, we used to play ping-pong games and blame games. But in this, we are in this together, and I truly appreciate the partnership. And we have just come from Glasgow, and I am happy. In Glasgow, actually, you know, we were in the same, similar setting, and huge tents. The difference was this: that in the Glasgow case, we had heaters because it was too cold. Here in Makueni, under the tents, we are opening windows and aircon. So climate change is real and it is devastating. We don't want to play games and blame those who are most responsible, although we know that 20 countries globally contribute more than 80% of the greenhouse gases, and they control the 80% of global GDP, but that's not really the point. The point is we must work together. We appreciate the resources that we have received and continue to receive from our partners. It is not enough, and it can never be enough. And Kenya, using our president, who led our delegation in Glasgow, showcased the leadership Kenya has achieved here in Kenya, in Africa, and in the whole world, using our own internal resources, but also with the support of our partners. Climate change does not discriminate. Tribe doesn't discriminate political affiliations. All of us are in this together as a world. And of course, communities such as ours, economies such as ours in Africa are more vulnerable. And that is a difference between the impacts here and the impacts in more developed jurisdictions. So we must work together in terms of support, in terms of resources, in terms of technology development and transfer, in terms of capacity building, instead of spending so much time on who is responsible. And that is important in itself, but really we must move forward. The last point, and I would urge that at some point during the program, if my ministry, the PS, and those who are present can be given an opportunity during the breakout groups to speak about the 2 billion tree fund that His Excellency announced in Glasgow, which is an initiative between my ministry, Treasury, and the UNDP and the UN fraternity, because it is a significant facility, a mechanism towards mobilizing resources, but not here, maybe in outward. And also speak to you about the program we have establishing seed centers in the regions and sub-regions, and working with the county governments also to establish county model tree nurseries and going big on bamboo. And finally, we are in the electioneering period. The next couple of months, we'll go into elections. Our president has, since he assumed office, achieved tremendous milestone in the fight against climate change. What I have been waiting to hear, and although I know, of course, the campaigns have not yet started in earnest, well, of course, but I think it is important that we mainstream climate change and environment in our political discourse. And I know some of you, maybe many of you here, are aspirants in the next elections. We have had a lot of theories and principles being espoused by some. I am yet to hear anything at all on what is it that you propose, and here the Right Honourable Prime Minister and your party, and so to others. Where is your manifesto? Where does climate change, which is the most serious threat to humanity and the planet, where does it fall in your manifesto? Or do we risk now, because of the political transition, losing the gains that our president, and they have been spoken to, and I don't need to repeat them because they are there to be seen, they have been seen globally. What happens next post-August 2022? That is important. Now finally, you heard about a girl called Greta Thunberg, who mobilized the youth, the kids, such as Amina. We messed up with nature, we have messed up with their lives, their future. And she, watching what was happening, actually participating in Glasgow, said, there's a lot of blah, 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 blah. Too much talk here, too much speeches, too many speeches, but no action. I hope and I believe, because I know and I have interacted with a number of your governors, I hope that this conference does not become another blah, 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 blah. I thank you.
I think there was a bit of climate politics there. And it is a reality. There is also climate politics, especially at the international level. Now, I would like to call Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Devolution, Honorable Charles Keter, to also give his remarks.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, my colleague ministers led by our chair, NDICC, Fred Matiang'i. Also with us is Monica Juma, Energy, Joe Mujeru, ICT, and Eugene Wamalwa, Defense, whom I really want to thank him because he's the one who has been the co-chair. I'm just harvesting where I never invested. So I really want to thank Eugene. Excellencies, governors who are here, led by the Chair, Council of Governors, Honorable Wambora, the Speaker of the Senate, Ken Lusaka, the senators, distinguished senators, and members of Parliament who are here, Excellencies, ambassadors, and development partners and private sector, invited guests, good afternoon. I don't want also to forget the team in the Ministry of Devolution, led by my CS, Gideon Mungaro, who is here with us. Thank you so much, Gideon. And also the Principal Secretary, Julius Korir. Thank you so much. And the other team who are here. I want to start by saying it's my great honor to attend this occasion of the 7th and the final annual Devolution Conference here at Makueni Boys High School, Makueni County. This 4-day conference brings together all stakeholders in the devolution space to evaluate the performances of both levels of government on matters of policy, legislation, accountability, good governance, and service delivery to the public. Significantly, this conference marks the 9 years of devolution dispensation, a decade during which structures, institutions, legislations, and laws which have come to define devolution in the country have been initiated, established, nurtured to the divine devolution in the country have been, nurtured to the current state. The challenges that we have encountered have taught us lessons which we will define the devolution story as we move into the second decade of county governments. The British Industrial Strategy Council, in their observation of implementing devolution, said, and I quote, "Devolution is a process and not an event. It requires a staged implementation with room to innovate, test, improve, and adapt." The theme of this year's annual conference is a multi-level governance for climate change. In choosing this theme, if I may not wrong, Kenya becomes the first country to hold a subnational conference on climate change just 2 weeks after the Glasgow meeting. Indeed, climate change poses a critical threat to future development, as elaborated by my earlier speakers, particularly in developing countries where food security, water scarcity, urban poverty, high unemployment, increased industrialization activities, and low access to quality healthcare are key matters of concern. I want to say the ministry has continually supported implementation of devolution and devolved system through various programs. Just to name the two, the KDSP, that is the Kenya Devolution Support Program, the Instrument for Devolution Advice and Support, which some of the counties have benefited on those two programs. To support the legal and policy framework for better functioning of counties, I want to say the ministry is currently undertaking a review of the Intergovernmental Relation Act of 2012 and the County Government Act of 2012 to respond to emerging issues since the beginning of devolution. Regulations for the two mentioned legislations are currently undergoing validation. The ministry has also developed the Intergovernmental Alternative Dispute Resolution Regulations that will guide the resolutions of intergovernmental dispute in an amicable manner. The ministry has also developed the Intergovernmental Forum Regulations, which provide the establishment of the structures and operations of the intergovernmental sector forums. These regulations are aimed at facilitating operations and coordination among the two levels of government at the sector level. In conclusion, I expect that both levels of government represented here today, development partners, and other stakeholders will use this forum to deliberate on issues and come up with recommendations that will enrich the implementation of devolution as it ushers in its second decade. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
I was a bit afraid of standing near the Minister for Devolution so that Makweni doesn't suffer, but he has been brief. Now it's my pleasure to ask the Speaker of Senate, Honorable Senator Kenneth Lusaka, to address us. We will be addressed later by Dr. Kevin Kariuki in another session so that we give him good time. And Lady Justice Martha Koome will be with us tomorrow. Karibu, Senator Speaker Kenneth Lusaka.
The Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, allow me to adopt the protocols as observed by my predecessor speakers in the interest of time, and right away ask the honorable senators to come forward so that I quickly introduce them. Please. Okay. We have Senator Professor Margaret Kamar. Can you lift your hand so that people... Senator Samuel Bogisho, who is also leader of majority. Senator James Agri Orengo, I think he stepped out, leader of minority. Senator Beatrice Kwamboka, MP. Senator Naomi Shionga, MP. Senator Dr. Ali Abdullahi, MP. Senator Boy Issa, MP. Senator Faki Munyihaj, MP. Senator Dr. Alice Milgo, MP. Senator Isaac Ngugi, MP. Senator Anwar Loitiptip, MP, he was here. Senator Kavindo Mudhama, MP. Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr., MP. Senator Naomi Wako, MP. Senator Professor Samson Ongeri, MP. Senator Moses Kajwang, MP. Senator Sylvia Kasanga, MP. For your information, we have quorum. We only need 15. And there are 17, so we can transact business. Senator Wario from Tana River. Thank you so much for coming. Allow me to give them a clap. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to join all of you today for this great conversation, being the last annual one and also the last before the next election. This conference has become an important one for the institutions implementing devolution to have candid conversations and remind ourselves of the immense responsibility placed upon us, that of anchoring our devolved system of government. Climate change is disrupting national economies and affecting lives. So we see weather patterns are changing, sea levels are rising, and weather events are becoming more extreme. Thus, Sustainable Development Goal 13 implores all of us to take action to mitigate the effect of climate change. It is my sincere belief that the conversations we have here in the next 3 days will enable us to agree on the attainment of optimum levels for dealing with climate change and arrive at the critical decision of whether we will fit the scale of the problem with the weight of the problem, or whether we will have a proactive approach in anticipation. The challenge remains that there is no objective way to determine the appropriate level of climate change or other environmental problems, since such problems manifest themselves at a number of levels simultaneously. So the multi-level approach therefore remains the best bet for managing these. Honorable delegates, we are duty-bound to take deliberate interventions and find a place for climate action in our respective devolved units if we have to be sure of handing over our county down to the next generations. It is time for county governments and all other players to audit our action plans for the past 8 years and critique ourselves with a view of finding out whether our contribution to the environment and climate change has been positive or negative. To quote Alexandria Ocasio, I quote, "We don't have time to sit on our hands as our planet burns. For young people, climate change is bigger than election or re-election. It's either life or death." As Kenya gears herself for the final lap towards actualizing Vision 2030, it should not be lost on us that there shall not be any industrial, social, political, and economic gains to celebrate if we will not have concrete corresponding climate action plans. We must not think that about the next steps, but also about the next generation. The new climate economy clearly shows that only bold actions can and will deliver at least 26 trillion pounds in global economic benefits between now and 2030. It could also generate over 65 million new carbon jobs by 2030 and over 700,000 premature deaths from air pollution compared with the business as usual, and generate an estimated $2.8 trillion in government revenues in 2030 through subsidy reform and carbon pricing alone. This is according to the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate. So going forward, it will be gratifying to see county governments return a shilling on every dollar to go towards climate change actions. It is unfortunate that in the past, world economies competed for space in the industrial age without due regard to the impact of their actions on the global climate. Today, the same countries have to return more of their gains to attempt to rectify their initial omissions. Let us not allow our country and region to get to that undesirable situation, since as an African economy, we are already overburdened by the sins of others as far as climate change is concerned. Honorable delegates, the advanced human activities have not spared the marine life either, knowing very well that Kenya benefits more on marine life both from coastal and mainland lakes. It is saddening to note that according to recent research, climate change is already impacting marine species diversity distribution along the equator where Kenya lies, and is greatly attributed to rising temperatures and waning of water bodies. This phenomenon continues to manifest itself in the steady rise of water levels in our inland lakes such as Nakuru and Naivasha. We have witnessed death of fish in Lake Victoria and extreme rise of water temperatures in Lake Turkana. If as a nation and region will not work together to rescue our environment through clear and smart climate actions, then we must be ready to carry the curse of that will befall our generations. Now is the time for the national and county governments to become partners to implement a national climate action plan. Internationally, the Paris Agreement recognizes that local and regional governments have an important role to play in global climate action. It is time to take this recognition a step further and craft policies and implementation strategies that are most effective on the ground, that take into account the roles and mandates of levels of government to enable action. Further, we must, as a country, move swiftly from rule-making to implementation and work to strengthen our climate pledges as requested by the COP26 text. As a Senate, we undertake to lead the necessary consultations to ensure uniformity of focus on any legislative amendments necessary to ensuring that the county assemblies support the county executives to implement the requisite laws. As I conclude, I call upon every citizen to start thinking about sustainable contributions we can individually make towards sustainable climate actions as a way of protecting the life of our future generations. So I leave you with the words of the former President Barack Obama, who says we are the first generation to feel the effect of climate change and the last generation who can do something about it. I just want to thank the Senate for its contribution. I think in many years since this conference, this year Senate has contributed immensely towards what you are seeing in this particular hall. So I really want to thank the Senate and pledge that even in future we shall continue contributing more because we are one family of devolution. May God bless you as you continue with your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker, Senate, and I want to recognize Honorable Florence Mwangangi, Speaker Machakos and Vice Chair of CAF, and all speakers from our 47 counties. Now, I would like to call our chair, Governor Martin Wambora, who will make remarks on behalf of COG, and then invite CS Dr. Fred Matiang, who will handle the high-level segment. And I warn you, Dr. Matiang is more strict than myself.
Good afternoon. Your Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, who is with us virtually, the Right Honorable former Prime Minister, Honorable Raila Odinga, Waziri Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Right Honorable Senator Kennedy Rusaka, Speaker of the Senate, my colleague, Excellency Governors, Honorable Members of Parliament, including the Senate, of course, leaders of Makueni County and the Greater Eastern Region, our host, Ambassador Ore Thonke, Chair of the Devolution Donor Working Group, Principal Secretaries, Heads of Missions, members of the County Assembly, other national government representatives, other county government representatives, private sector and civil society representatives, international delegates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Council of Governors, I take this opportunity to welcome His Excellency the President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, to the 7th Annual Devolution Conference, to all of you distinguished guests who have honored us with your presence here today. Karibuni. This year we meet again as devolution partners to affirm the role and place of the county government and the devolved governance in this country's development and constitutional governance. More importantly, this year's conference theme, multi-level governance for climate action, underpins a crucial and necessary aspect of national and county governance that is deeply relevant in Kenya, in the region and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope that the content and discussions of this year's conference will assist in developing an overall plan on strategic intervention that county governments and indeed the national government need to adapt in order to caution their constituents against the impact of changing climate. I'm personally delighted that this conference is coming right after the close of COP26 discussions, meaning that as subnational government, we have an opportunity to align our climate action interests to the commitments of the just concluded Glasgow conference. I would like to recognize at this juncture the hard work of the members of the 7th Devolution Conference Steering Committee, which comprises of my vice chair in the Council of Governors, who was had very able leadership as a co-chair, along with the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Devolution, the Honorable Rose Nyamunga, who represented the Senate in the committee, Honorable Secretary General of the County Assemblies Forum, who represented CAF. Recognition is also due to the Planning Committee and all the other institutions represented here who took time to plan and to prepare for the conference. Asanteni sana. I would also like to recognize the presence of our international guests who are joining us from different parts of the world for the first time. We really appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now slightly over a decade since the country adopted the current constitution, which introduced fundamental changes to the governance process and structure. At the heart of these changes is the devolved system of government, which comprises of 47 county governments in addition to the national government. Since March 2013, when the first county governments were ushered in, the country has witnessed substantial progress in terms of achievement of the constitutional goals and objectives that have guided devolution. Indeed, for the last 8 years of their existence, county governments have grown to become the primary providers in local service delivery and development. Essential and key services under the purview of the county government, but not all: health, water sanitation, roads, trade development and regulations, early childhood education, among other services that are relevant to the lives and livelihood of communities around the country. A more crucial contribution by the county government is the facilitation of participation and consultation of the people in the county governance processes. This has ensured a pursuit of democratically agreed priorities in service delivery and development, and a governance process that is responsive and sensitive to the people's need and priorities at the grassroots level. Significant strides have been witnessed in the various sectors being managed by the counties. In the last financial year, 2020-2021, county governments allocated an average of 7.3% of their budget to agriculture, an increase of 1.3%, because we realize that agriculture is a major engine of growth. Among others, these investments have gone to mechanization, increased input, access to farmers, seed distribution, and extension services. But despite these milestones, the policy and legislative environment has been very friendly to these devolved functions. While recognizing the role of national government in developing legal frameworks that set standards and practices for the agricultural sector, the Council of Governors reiterates that this should be done in consultation with county government. In the health sector, malaria incident burden has reduced to 40%, 40 per 1,000. County governments have incrementally funded interventions against the non-communicable diseases, improved screening, diagnostic capacity, and improved capacity for care. The result of these health care investments are reduced waiting time for surgery, improved clinical outcomes, reduced referrals, and efficiency at county health facilities. Maternal and child health programs have also yielded marginal increases in skilled birth attendance, contraceptions, use, prevalence, and immunization coverage. We, however, do admit that the health sector has been plagued by funding and human resource challenges, issues both levels of government are appraised of. In the wake of these challenges, the county governments have remained at the forefront in the management of the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Our health systems have faced an unprecedented challenge and their capacity tested to the limit. However, County governments have remained resilient and continue to offer innovative solutions as we tackle the global crisis occasioned by COVID-19. Since the announcement of the first case of COVID-19, county governments have achieved the following. 1, increased isolation beds, increased installation of additional oxygen plants, procured more oxygen cylinders and oxygen concentrators, connected more than 3,000 beds to oxygen, among other measures that have been instituted to manage the pandemic. May I now turn to the early childhood development and education, ECD sector. County governments allocated 4.97 billion in ECD sector in 2020-2021 financial year. With the demand for pre-primary education increasing, enrollment in the county ECD centers increased by 1.02% to 29,130 from 28,383. This includes 470 special needs units established across all the 47 counties for learners with special needs. Distinguished guests, as I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks, this year's devolution conference focuses on the subject of climate change and specifically looks at the role of subnational government in climate action. For the next 3 days, we'll look at a myriad of topics such as urban resilience, sustainable food systems, indigenous knowledge, renewable energy, gender and youth, and effective waste management, all with a climate change lens. These topics are both timely and relevant for these countries, and indeed the broader region development and sustenance. Africa's socio-economic development is largely based on agriculture and land-based economic activities. A vast majority of African population is rural-based and relies on subsistence agriculture and other basic socio-economic activities that sustain livelihood. These forms of lifestyle and livelihood rely heavily on stability and predictability of climate and weather patterns, among other environmental factors. It is therefore necessary that any strategies at whatever level that seek to address developmental and governance issues should consider environmental and climatical issues at county levels. Agenda 2063, the African Union's plan for transformation, commits to tackle the challenge posed by climate change through a broad-based approach that encompasses a variety of efforts to address the ever-present threat of damage to the environment and climatic changes. At the global level, therefore, climate change is a core part of the agenda of 2030 in respect of Kenya, which compels states to come together under key commitments in the Paris Agreement of 2015. More critically and relevant to us all is that local governments are identified as primary stakeholders and have indeed become important players in climate process. Indeed, subnational governments from all over the world have proved in a number of ways that their contribution and leadership is essential to help achieve the objectives of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. According to UNDP, 50% to 80% of adaptation and mitigation action necessary to tackle the impacts of the changing climate are or will be implemented at subnational levels of governance. Being closer to the people, subnational governments are well placed to identify the needs and strengths of their citizens in the battle against climate change. And this is why we are thanking the World Bank for putting most of the money, which will be inaugurated today, to the county governments, all the way up to the world level. This is because in most cases, subnational governments are functionally responsible for service provisions in areas that directly influence greenhouse gas emissions levels, such as transport, agriculture, environment, energy, industry, land, and resource management. I have to finish. Distinguished guests, at the national level, Kenya is signatory to various regional and global instruments that seek to protect the environment, fight climate change, and ensure that environmental rights are guaranteed and protected. Article 2, subsection 2 of Kenya's 2010 Constitution provides that regional and international instruments that Kenya is party to are part of Kenyan law. We also have environmental and land rights as part of our expansive Bill of Rights. This is complemented by the enactment of the Climate Change Act in 2016, which lays down the specific normative framework that is to guide climate action. Over the last few years, county governments have expressed their commitment to the climate action agenda and have, in the process, demonstrated that they are indispensable and dependable players in their process. The various measures that county governments have taken to contribute to the climate action campaign not only demonstrates the technical and sophisticated nature of the solutions needed to tackle climate change, but also the effectiveness and importance of the measures taken. First, county governments have developed and are in the process of developing specific laws on climate change. At July 2021, 29 county governments and the enacted Climate Change Act, and the remaining ones are at advanced stage of finalizing. Through the Climate Change Act, the county governments have established their own county climate change funds to provide for financing investment to reduce climate change. While all the counties are yet to take full measures to ensure effective climate action, the vital strides made by the county governments I have just mentioned will accelerate action in the rest of the counties through mutual learning and action. The impact of the changing climate on food systems, water urban and infrastructure, energy, health, compel county governments to mainstream climate action in their county integrated environment actions. Distinguished guests, as I conclude, the county governments appreciate the National Treasury for including county governments in the development and rollout of financing locally led climate action. Such initiative will go a long way in supporting county governments to invest more in programs and projects that will caution vulnerable communities from the impact of climate. The Senate also needs to consider climate change when it is negotiating for the county shares of revenue. County governments bear the greatest burden, but county governments should also become innovative in tackling the effects of climate change. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, may I appreciate our partners who have supported this conference, who include County Pension Fund, AMREF, Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, UNDP, among others. Thank you for your great contribution to the conference. You are true friends of devolution. A special thanks also go to our development partners, private sector, civil society, media, faith-based institutions. We appreciate your cooperation with the counties and we anticipate deeper cooperation with you in the future. Distinguished guests, I wish you all fruitful discussions during the 2 coming days of the conference. With that long speech, which I'm not used to, may I now invite Waziri Dr. Fred Matiang'i to make his remarks and invite our key Andre speaker and also do the rest of the program. Thank you and God bless you. Asanteni sana.
Considering that the law of diminishing returns may be setting in, I will execute this session with a measure of precision so that we can get going to the next level. Right Honorable Prime Minister Mzee Raila Odinga, the chairperson of the Council of Governors, and all of you governors who are here today, my cabinet colleagues, all of whom have been introduced, and my colleagues across the spectrum of national government responsibility who are here, the principal secretaries, directors who are with us here today, Mr. Speaker, and the members of the Senate, honorable members of Parliament, members of the county assemblies, distinguished delegates, including our development partners, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, you had invited us to participate in a panel on the impact of climate change on global peace and stability. We have submitted to the conference secretariat a very lengthy presentation and a paper on how we are approaching from the security point of view the challenges we face related to climate change. I would like to take this opportunity to request you, Mr. Chairman, to afford us an opportunity to engage in a much more detailed manner with the Committee of the Council of Governors that addresses security, because this matter is even calling upon us to redesign our national security strategy, because truth be told, as my colleagues who are from that sector who are in this audience know, some of the things we are having to deal with or some of the things we are facing are things we were not prepared to deal with 10 years ago. So even when our national security was designed, national security strategy was designed, there are a number of things that no one anticipated that we are having to deal with now. That calls upon us not just to relook at the strategy, but to see how better we can build stronger intergovernmental collaborations to address the challenges we face today and those that we are likely to face tomorrow. The question you asked us basically to answer was, how does it affect us from a security point of view? And in 2 minutes, Mr. Chairman, first, the destruction that we are facing as a result of climate change challenges. No one knew that at this point in time we would spend between 25 and 30% of our operational budget on climate change related security issues. What we are experiencing in Laikipia, what we are experiencing in Baringo, what is going on in most of North Rift today, the movement, the theft of livestock, the pasture and water resource conflicts in that region are all related to climate change. The challenges we face on our borders towards the north and the northern eastern with our colleagues across the border are all related to climate change. And as we go forward, obviously, we're going to have to relook at how we will increase our budgets to deal with this. 2, the greater impact is even in resource and institutional strain. If you look at the number of personnel we are deploying to this conflict, it is affecting and distracting us from the core challenges we face in the security sector. The question you ask every morning is, are you going to deploy to chase Al-Shabaab, or you are going to deploy to chase cat rustlers and livestock problems in Laikipia and other places of the country? So I know it will affect also county governments in terms of how they look at resources, which means it calls upon a new framework and a new approach of budgeting and allocating resources for security, especially to address climate change-related challenges. We have outlined at length a new strategy and a new approach on how we are going to have to deal with this. We are going to build capacity and train better so that we are prepared for this. We are going to develop new structures for conflict resolution. I was speaking with Governor Nderito Mureithi in Laikipia and saying counties that are affected by this will have to start new frameworks of superintending over resource sharing agreements so that we can avert conflicts, which means we have to redesign conflict resolution mechanisms as we go along. 3, we are going to have to relook at intergovernmental alignment between us and county governments. For a long time, I must confess here that we have had challenges to support, for example, the county security committees and the county government's pressure on us to allow them to come up with their new security infrastructures. I think now we can't avoid that, and we can't hide from that responsibility anymore. We have to support county governments to come up with security arrangements to deal with some of these conflicts, because national government in and on itself cannot manage these challenges as it were. Fourthly, we have got to deal with resource alignment. We have to put our money where our mouth is. We are facing challenges which we cannot hide from. And we cannot overdepend on development partners. In our budgeting systems and in our frameworks of dealing with security, we as county governments and national governments, we must now debate how on a year-to-year basis we set aside resources deliberately to deal with the conflicts that are brought about by climate change. Now, in that lengthy presentation that we have filed with the conference secretariat, we have discussed the details of what the National Security Advisory Committee has decided to do, and what the National Security Council would like to do, how we will deploy some of the resources we have in the country to avert and to quickly respond to some of the challenges. KDF is involved up in Baringo. We are trying to do some water pans. We are trying to see how best we can deploy the resources we have to avert climate change-related conflicts. Mr. Chairman, we need time to go deep into this, and on my own behalf and on behalf of my colleagues, we will be available to sit with your committee that deals with security, to go deep into this, and I'm sure we will benefit more from your grassroots-based approaches in the manner in which we will have to redesign our national security strategy. I will leave it at that and do two important things. One, invite the Right Honorable Prime Minister to speak to us, and thereafter, I have been told that His Excellency the President has just logged in, and we will invite him to address us. But first, we start with the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, please.
The Chairman of the Council of Governors and the governors who are here, the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Senators, Honorable Fred Matiang'i and all the other Cabinet Secretaries who are here, development partners, diplomats, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, hamjambo. Hamjambo tena. I was in Makueni 2 weeks ago, and I knew that this conference was coming, and I promised the governor that I would come, because I've been a regular feature in these conferences since they started. So, but this Makueni conference has had history. Waswahili say, hayawi, 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 hayawi. Yeah, you know, it's not the first, it has been postponed so many times. But it will come. Now, when we're here, one cannot resist the temptation to do a journey down the memory lane and to see where we came from with devolution. Some of you here know our faces at the Bomas Constitutional Conference. We knew that devolution was one of the most contentious chapters at Bomas. It had, because of basically ignorance about devolution, it had very many opponents. And remember, at one session, when we were discussing, a gentleman stood and spoke so passionate about devolution that it was resolved that he should become the chairman of that committee. And he led that committee so efficiently that he became a marked person. Then one day, in front of his children, in broad daylight, some people just moved into his house and shot him directly while his children were watching helplessly. This is none other than the late Dr. Odhiambo Mbai. And today I'm going to request you, in honor of the late Dr. Odhiambo Mbai, to stand up and observe 1 minute's silence. Thank you. We are celebrating a decade of this bold experiment with the 2 levels of government, which has been a remarkable journey for our people. It has been full of triumphs and challenges. At this 7th conference, you have decided to confront the elephant in the room of human survival, the issue of climate change. This is a clear indication that counties are coming of age and venturing into some of the greatest challenges humanity is facing now and the centuries ahead. I commend you for this. Climate change is bigger than the election coming up in 2022 or the ones coming that will follow in 2027 and 2032. It is a life and death matter that has cornered everyone all over the planet. I believe that climate is so important that going forward, we need to have a National Climate Council and situate it within the presidency. Kenya is experiencing higher temperatures, unpredictable rainfall patterns, increased incidence of drought and floods, and rising sea levels. Extreme weather events have led to loss of lives, diminished livelihoods, reduced crop and livestock production, and damaged infrastructure, among other adverse impacts. The key enablers of our economy, that is agriculture, water, energy, tourism, and wildlife, are extremely climate sensitive. If we don't tackle climate change, all our efforts to grow our economy will be in vain. County governments operate right on the ground. They are the first port of call when homes and farms get washed away by floods that were not expected. They are the first line of defense when crops fail in a drought that comes when rains were expected. Counties, therefore, have a critical role, particularly in educating our people on the reality of climate change. You have no option but to provide leadership on this matter. I am aware that to date, 33 counties have enacted climate change policy and legal frameworks, while others are at different stages of formulation of the same. I particularly laud the ASAL counties of Garissa, Isiolo, Kitui, Makueni, and Wajir, which have gone ahead and established county climate change funds. That is the leadership we are looking for at the grassroots. Today, there are several other transformative ideas whose time has come in Kenya. They are being resisted the way devolution was, but we will actualize them because their time is here. At this forum, I would like to share some thoughts on how we are going to renew and redefine devolution to make it deliver better to the people. Across the country, old and lingering challenges are imposing new pressures on government and leaders at both county and national level. Unemployment, deepening poverty, and rising cost of living have left our people disappointed and sometimes angry at their leaders. People need our help. Our duty as leaders is to breathe a new life and give new purpose to old institutions and structures. Where need be, we will have to be bold enough to abandon institutions and ideas that are not working and come up with new ones. For a start, we must strengthen devolution. We must devolve more resources to the counties. This should not be a divisive issue. That is what the BBI was intending to do. We must also overcome the challenge of insufficient allocation and delays in disbursement of funds by the National Treasury to counties, if counties are to operate efficiently. On this, there should be no debate. The funds will have to follow all devolved functions. This means the National Treasury will have to release all the funds for all the devolved functions at the appropriate time. There must be no two ways about this. The problem of overlapping and duplication of functions by state agencies, corporations, and regional development authorities will also have to be addressed conclusively. Addressing these issues need not mean antagonism between counties and the national government. On the contrary, they require a partnership between the two levels of government. There must also be a clear understanding that no level of government can succeed when the other is failing. Take economic growth, for instance. When the national economy is weak, counties will be disempowered. So growth, which leads to jobs and lowers the cost of living, must be a shared concern for both county and national government. Counties must be at the center of our envisaged growth and recovery for employment and job creation. In the years ahead, we must renew the contract between the people and their government, both county and national. People must feel that government, whether county or national, is there for them and cares about them. Each level of government will have to invent new ways to deal with purely national or devolved challenges. In the end, however, our people need their problems solved regardless of the level of government that is supposed to do it. My vision is to push for a strong partnership to make all our counties feel more a part of the solution of our national problems, while helping counties solve their devolved challenges, and that empowers the counties to determine their own destiny. I would like to see increased agricultural productivity. This will not only increase incomes, it will also create more employment opportunities. So we will need to work together to ensure efficient and targeted fertilizer subsidy, a clear program for mechanization of agriculture, proper water management and irrigation, deployment of extension officers, and functioning systems of market access. I am extremely keen to see counties go past agriculture and delve into manufacturing and value addition. Today, only about 7 counties, all of them peri-urban, are involved in some kind of manufacturing. We need to go for robust manufacturing in all our counties to generate productive employment opportunities at national and county levels. One county, one product. We need to establish or revive agriculture-related cooperative societies to promote growth in the counties and absorb rural labor. We also need to put more money into county-level infrastructure development to attract investment in rural areas. Ladies and gentlemen, more importantly, counties must improve on own source revenue collections. This means counties must expand revenue bases. Counties with relatively well-established industry and service sectors do better on own source revenue collection. We must also push for full automation of revenue collection systems in all counties to seal revenue leakages and avenues for corruption. And we must commit to deal with the old-time national and now devolved problem of corruption. On this, action will speak louder than words in the years ahead. I am also aware that counties are struggling with the problem of marginalization, particularly of minorities in their borders. We will need to come up with clear mechanisms to make all communities within counties feel fairly treated and their voices heard. Finally, I wish to point out one extremely critical issue that we have to address, the question of spending priorities. We must devise ways to make counties spend the largest share of their revenues on development. The Public Finance Management Act of 2012 requires that at least 30% of the spending should be on development over medium term. Yet today, majority of counties spend more than 50% of their revenue on personal emoluments. I am aware, of course, that this is because of the amount that is being disbursed is insufficient, and that therefore need to increase the disbursement to the counties. This is where devolution is failing to change lives as it should. So we need to enforce and ensure adherence to the Public Finance Management Act. All these challenges and aspirations point out to two things. One is that we should not treat devolution as a fixed system. We should see it as an evolving system where the pendulum of powers and roles can swing back and forth, one way or the other, between counties and national governments. Secondly, the county government and the national government must work together in a partnership for Project Kenya, because none is more important than the other. Kenya is much more important, and therefore I'm talking about a partnership between two levels of government, that the national government must ensure that the county governments are working effectively, that we do not have 38 countries in one. We have only one country, and that therefore there must be measurable standards against which all the performance of all counties are going to be benchmarked. That we ensure that the service delivery is equitable throughout our country in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of agriculture, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of environmental protection. We must ensure that there's comparable standards across the whole country. And that should be the responsibility of the national government to ensure that counties meet that standard. That we first agree on a standard to be met, and then we have a way of evaluating to ensure that there's conformity with the standard which have been set and commonly agreed between the national government and all the county governments. I want to thank you and wish you a very fruitful deliberation during this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga. His Excellency the President will address us by video link shortly, but before that happens, I would like to request my colleagues on the podium that we can now take our seats before His Excellency addresses us. And while we are taking our positions down on the floor, we have a 3-minute video to be played on climate change that I will ask that it be played now before we invite His Excellency the President to address us. Please proceed and play the video.
Climate Change Action Plan to scale up efforts and to maintain a low carbon development trajectory. The plan includes commitment to restore degraded water towers, accelerate forest restoration, and to increase our tree cover to at least 10% of our land area in order to